It is astonishing how humiliating beginning a piece is. And yet, every time I start a piece, I feel like a preschooler. I feel like a little child fumbling my way around, finger painting, desperate for an idea. It's a very humiliating experience, but you have to trust that eventually an idea will come. In this case, with I Still Dance, it was this long G minor arpeggio that just goes all the way through the orchestra for bar after bar after bar, and you have this moment when you think finally you found it and you run with it, and that's what I did.
I asked John to do two things. I asked him if he could write something slow and mellifluous and haunting and charming that would be utterly different from Mahler 6. And then I asked him if he could write some kind of an orchestral showpiece that would have been performed by Leopold Stokowski with a lot of things like recitatives and big gestural things that were appropriate for backlighting and various other suggestions that I made, absolutely none of which he listened to or took on board at all.
I'd known about Michael since he was in his 20s. I was at Harvard, and he was assistant conductor with the Boston Symphony. And he was, of course, already very controversial because he was young and very charismatic, and he was doing very unconventional programming with the Boston Symphony. But I actually didn't meet him until probably the early 80s. He conducted a piece of mine in New York called Shaker Loops.
What I was loving about what John was doing was that he was doing things that some of the minimalist composers I had been doing before, Steve Reich particularly, but he was doing it in a much more symphonic way, in a way that recognized these specific qualities of what was possible from different instruments and the way in which they could felicitously, propulsively, confrontationally intermix.
I've lived in the Bay Area since 1972. I came here from having grown up in New England, and I really consider myself a resident of a Californian. The San Francisco Symphony has been a big part of my life since 1978. More recently, for the orchestra's 100th anniversary, I wrote a really wild piece based on fragments of Beethoven string quartets called Absolute Jest, which Michael made a wonderful recording of and the orchestra's toured with.
One of the most remarkable John experiences that I had was working on the piece Absolute Jest, because we premiered the piece, and shortly before this was going to happen, John informed me that, oh, by the way, the first 400 bars of the piece are different than they were the last time. So with the new beginning of the piece, it became not only comfortable, it became really an inspiring journey. So it was 2 days ago that we premiered the piece you're about to hear this evening. I Still Dance, a virtuoso opening piece for orchestra written by John Adams, and I'm very honored that it is dedicated to me and to my husband, Joshua Robeson. We've been asked recently how long we've known John. don't exactly know. It depends on where, I guess it's one of those things, depends on when you start counting. The youthful energy he claims is part of the inspiration behind this that he thinks Joshua and I have, but I think he's the leader of the pack when it comes to youthful energy, as you're about to hear in this super virtuoso piece. It's been a great collaboration, John, and thank you all so much for being a part of this as well. Thank you.
If you think about all the great works of music, from the classical repertoire, those great moments, they usually have to do with some rhythmic or harmonic moment when things go not the way you expected them, but they take some beautiful, magical, unexpected detour. And really, in a way, composing for me is searching for that moment, that magical alternative solution. Well, sometimes the title comes first. I've had pieces where I've had a great title and then I had to find the music for it. And then other times you have you have a musical image and you don't have a title. And that was the case here. This is a man who's in his 70s, but he's got incredible energy, and his partner Joshua really does dance. So that's how the title came about. I think this piece is just probably a bit of a surprise to people who are expecting a dance, because it's actually not in 3/4, it's in 4/4, and it really starts like a sort of wild toccata on steroids.
This piece definitely features the electric bass in a way, even though it's not in a solo role, its timbre and its sort of driving role in the ensemble is a very important component. The bass lines are often very challenging and very exciting. He writes very challenging parts for the bass most of the time.
Sometimes with conductors, they don't get the spirit of the piece, and that's very difficult. But of course, I didn't have this problem with this piece and with Michael, because he locked into it. It's this strange marriage of this kind of Baroque toccata with a disco beat underneath and drums jamming away. So, it's the furthest thing from sort of high modernist purity. It's dirty in a very playful and I think pleasantly provocative way.
Because the opening gala was dedicated to both Michael and myself, and then suddenly this piece, it means a lot that we are recognized for who we are, and we always have been accepted in this community. And it's a piece filled with great wit and charm, and also a degree of reflection, which I think is terrific.
Music is such an amazing art form, because for reasons that we don't entirely understand, either psychologically or physically, it's able to convey the deepest meaning. It's able to convey meaning that goes beyond what I could say to you in words. And I was very grateful for the chance to write something that's a very personal statement of friendship. And I'm very glad I did.